Hello again. In this video, we will be talking about how React only updates what's necessary. This is the third part of the documentation, main concepts, rendering elements. We'll be using a function slightly different from what we see in the documentation. So here we go. Let's put this particular JSX in parentheses because that is acceptable. Nothing should change. We should get a new random number. Save it. I think my autosave is on. Refresh. We get a new random number. Good. Now let's do something else. Now, what we're going to do now is we will split this into two separate tags. We'll call this h2, and the next random number is Control V, and I think we need a parent tag when we're working with JSX. So uh, we see in this particular element that there's a div that is open and closed. There's an h1 that's open and closed, and there is an h2 that's open and closed. So there is no all-encompassing parent element. And this is not okay when it comes to JSX. What you need is an all-encompassing parent element. So you make the div the parent element and you put your two tags inside it, and this should work. So let's refresh it, and bingo, it works. Now, the argument that's being made in the documentation is that React only updates what's necessary. Now, how do we verify that? We first start with an understanding of how this particular line of code is working. This particular line of code reads document.getElement by ID root. So where exactly is this root? Let's open up our browser. Command Option I should open DevTools, and here are the DevTools. In HTML, I go to Elements and I'm going to do Control F. I'm going to try finding root. Oh, there's a lot of roots over here, but I find that over here. This is the root that's being written to, right? And we go in there and it says hello world, beautiful. And it says the next random number is 32. Beautiful. Now, the argument being made in the documentation is that React only updates what's necessary. How true is that? Let's test it out. So instead of running these few lines of code directly, what we're going to do is we're going to use an interval. So we do set interval, and what do I want to run? I want to run, let's put all of this inside a function. Function render element, close, then we'll move all of this into a function. And because the render element function is never called, what's this whining about? Unexpected token expected. Eh? Why are you expecting that? Come on. Oh, the keyword is wrong. Sorry. Okay, nothing should get printed now because we're not calling React DOM.render. It's inside a render element, and we're never calling the render element function. We'll comment this out and we'll refresh. We should see nothing, and we see nothing. Okay, let's call this particular function render element in 1 second intervals, or 0.5 seconds, because the documentation uses 1 second and we want to be a little different, right? So we do a set interval and we call this particular function render element once every half a second, right? And we refresh this page, and every half a second we get a new number. Beautiful. Now, the argument made is that the DOM is refreshed only when there's a change, and only what must be refreshed is refreshed. Let's see how true that is. You see this h2 tag over here, it keeps blinking. It keeps blinking because the number keeps changing. it changes every half a second. This blinks every half a second. But we see that H1 that has the words hello and world in it never blinks. It never blinks because it never changes. And when I expand H2, I also see that only the number is blinking. The rest of it is not blinking. So in all likelihood, what's being changed is only that string. So I think it's safe to agree with Facebook on this front. I think React does only update when there is a necessity to update.